Jess on his right. Hey, hold up. Don't start a fight. He's got you covered with all the sports. Don't fret, he's wearing shorts. It's time for Waking Jake in the morning. Waking Jake at night. Jake sucks.
Woo! And good morning, Bakers. What is going on, everybody? Happy Wednesday morning to you, April 27th. A big week this week. The NFL draft is among us. One of my favorite sports weeks of the season. I don't care how far I end up down this slippery slope of baseball and everything else. The NFL draft, it just does not get better, man. The hopes and dreams of your franchise going up and down with each selection. Some in your control, some not in your control. And we are joined by Justin Penik, talking Giants, talking football, New Jersey. What else do you like hail from?
New Jersey Generals.
New Jersey Gens. That's your team.
Yeah, New Jersey Generals.
That's your squad. How you doing?
Jake Storiali, talking Jake.
Yeah.
BBD. Bakers, how we doing? How we feeling? Happy one day until Christmas. So I guess this is technically second Christmas Eve of the year. If you're an NFL fan, and I know we got NBA playoffs going on, I know we got good baseball going on, but I mean, I'm really excited to look at the ratings tomorrow. I'm really excited to look at the ratings because now this is a draft that's kind of, the world's kind of getting back, right? We're in Vegas. The draft was supposed to be in Vegas last year, so I think it's going to be very aesthetically pleasing. If you saw the NFL Network setup, I think we're going to see our friend Chris Rose on Friday.
Yeah.
So we're going to see what that looks like on just how pretty it's going to be in Las Vegas and just how awesome it's going to be. The players are going to be back too. So I'm excited to see, number one, how it's going to look, how it's going to go down, and what our favorite teams are going to be doing. This is a very interesting and unique draft too, just from a player perspective too. So I'm pumped to talk about it.
I'm excited to talk about it with you too. King BBD, we are all currently wearing sunglasses.
Yeah.
As a pre-show development.
Thank you, because these are prescription, and this helps me see.
They are prescription.
Yeah.
Wow.
I was getting flack during the Blitzball tournament. Oh, you can't see. It's like, no, if I had them off, I wouldn't be able to see.
I was just about
wouldn't be able to see.
I was just about to say, other people may know you as an umpire.
Which I think actually putting these on makes me more recognizable,
Yeah.
especially with the JOMBOY media crowd as opposed to, like, my own football crowd. So,
well, JP, I think there's a couple things I want to check off first, just because the people come here. A lot of baseball nuts, a lot of Yankees nuts. Rizzo 3-homer game yesterday. You could have gone.
the third one
Yeah.
was so fun.
Zach,
BBD
Zach,
was at
Sam
the
and I
game.
were there, and it was it was the most off the bat. Like, that was a foul home run ever.
Yeah.
And when I saw the clip on the Twitter, I was like, yeah, okay, that did capture that.
So that
Because we all looked away and we looked back up and it was like, what?
What were the physics of that?
Dude, like it
Give
felt
me a
like
hand.
It's a
divine
slice.
intervention.
It's a slice. It's if you come across a ball this way and the ball goes that way. So, Aaron Boone, I'm not normally a big press conference guy. Someone in the chat just got me. Bobby Skinner too lazy to wake up early. Bobby's floating around the office. We got a
Bobby
lot
and I had
going
too
on.
I've talked to him today.
Bobby and I had too much to drink last night. That's why I have to have these sunglasses on.
Yes, that's why we all are. The Rizzo home run was awesome and hilarious, especially coming after having a porch job. Yankees doctor Chris Ahmad just liked my tweet last night. Rizzo 3-homer game, porch me and spit in my mouth.
Let's go Yanks.
So glad to be on that relationship level with him. Crazy night around baseball. I'm glad you got to see it, BBD. Boone's quote after the game was like, it's exactly kind of what you said, and even on TV, and just the way Rizzo reacted to it, there was just this glimmer of like, no way, but let's watch. And
Check it out.
I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was the swing or I think it was Rizzo's reaction of him giving the like, I'm going to watch this. There's no way, but I'm going to watch this. It was like I don't know what this sport's equivalent. It would be like a golfer hitting a ball 240 yards and it's rolling up on the green and you're like, it's not going to go in the hole, but let me watch this.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what Boone said after. He's like, it was a foul ball, but something felt amiss. And then in the magic of Yankee Stadium or Rizzo or Italians or Tino Martinez or whatever it was, that ball comes back in, lands in only a spot in Yankee Stadium.
180 degrees it fell down. Like, it just straight.
Yeah.
Pure chaos. I'll give the people a little bit of a cheese before we head into the draft. Ian Happ, who is a friend, a colleague,
Sure.
of the company. I've already texted him a couple times being like, I love Rizzo.
Kind of like this guy.
And so, okay, so here's my evidence. On 6/15 last Thursday, I said, Happer, Rizzo's awesome and completely has my heart. Dude's awesome to watch. Hap said he's just going to get better, clutch as they come, going to have that team rolling. So, that's pretty cool.
Hey.
And then I tweeted at him, and I think he didn't want to engage with it because I think that would have pissed off Cubs fans on Twitter. So he texted, he goes, look at Riz go.
Eye black.
And Hap, and this is funny because we're losers that live on the internet, and Ian Happ is a starting outfielder for the Chicago Cubs.
He's a human being.
He goes, call Elias, like the Sports Bureau, because he goes, that might be the least total distance for a 3-homer game in the StatCast era. I sent him the tweet that was Anthony Rizzo's 3-homer game was the shortest amount of distance in the home run here. He goes, love to see it.
Yep.
So, yeah, it's Rizzo is awesome. I mean, the emotions I was having between Tino and Rizzo. And, I mean, I know you shouldn't just throw that out there. I mean, Tino's the first baseman of the dynasty. It's hilarious in hindsight how Italian his name was.
Italian
Tino,
night last night. Just the whole Italian night.
Gallo gets the homer, so that was fun. And then the other things I just want to check off quick. If you haven't seen the ending to the Minnesota Twins Detroit Tigers game, it's hilarious. Have you not seen it?
Oh, I've seen it. Bad base running, like multiple bad. If you were to count the bad things that happen in a play, it was against the Tigers, right?
Yeah, I mean,
There are more.
I'm not sure there's more total mistakes.
There are more bad things that happen on the Twins that play, but they wind up winning the game, I feel.
I mean, it was missed catch.
Yeah.
It was runner overrunning third. It was runner running from first.
Yep.
And the runner running from second.
Yes.
And then the two throws, I mean, the guy spikes a throw because the runner stops running, and then the throw into the outfield. If you have no idea what we're talking about, literally go look it up. It is a must-watch to get into your day today. The other thing that just needs to be said, the Ja Morant dunk last night is one of my favorite things I've seen on a basketball court. I think sometimes the dunk and the home run get lumped together because if you've seen a few of them, you know what you're getting into. Ja Morant's dunk in a playoff game.
in a playoff game in like a contested series within a contested game.
Like in like a big comeback win, like that dude is a dude. He's on my board.
Love it.
I would take him in the draft.
Love it. Love it.
He could play what? Ja Morant, a little wide receiver, something like that. He's got to be what, 6'3"?
Tight end. I mean,
maybe
you have
if he's physical enough.
The tight ends that have that basketball background. I mean, that's kind of like what you look for. I mean, like, hey, if
it feels like every like failed college basketball small forward becomes like the best tight end ever.
If you can put on some weight and you can get over to 230, 240, get over that hump, go out and be a tight end and win those contested catches. I mean, that's honestly something that I do look for. Like, if hey, you watch the tape, you watch
some transferable skills.
John Morant listed 6'3", 174, so we might have to keep him out.
Let's put on some LBs.
We might have to keep him
wide
out.
receiver.
Maybe even give him a couple touches. End around.
Love it.
With that being said, like you said, Justin Penik, it is a Christmas Eve of sorts for football fans. It's a Christmas Eve of sorts for, I guess, freaks like me that just love any sort of draft. As people are tracking my MLB The Show journey.
Today is Wednesday.
I just love to draft. And, JJR coming up in a little bit.
Big one.
G draft. I'll tell the people. Whoops. Not that it'll affect the G draft. Anyways.
Gonorrhea. First pick.
You always jump there.
I've got like 4 picks I'm so stoked about. We'll talk about it.
Teaser. Justin Penik, you guys talking Giants, talking football.
Yep.
There's a lot of tapes on different draft prospects. I mean, the most recent one is Iquanu versus Jermaine Johnson.
That's a good
film
one.
breakdown.
That is a good one. Honestly, probably one of the best matchup film breakdowns you can get. So on that Talking Football channel, hey, there's Talking Baseball, there's Talking Giants, there's Talking Yanks, there's also a Talking Football. So Bobby Skinner's doing a great job of putting out a lot of different film breakdowns. He even does some matchup ones. And Ikem Ekwonu versus Jermaine Johnson, you're talking about 2 first-round picks, 2 top 10 picks going up against each other, and both of them had some really good plays, really good reps against each other. So if you want to get ready for the draft, and it's like, we do a nice little combo of first-round guys and then also some maybe value guys in the second, third, fourth round that you can get. So go check that out and add plug over.
And that's I also love for those, and I think any fan of any team feels this, is you guys get a little bit of, if the Vikings draft player X, they Google their name.
That's right.
And there you guys are. So this draft, I keep saying checking boxes. I think I'm on a big checking boxes quick.
Sure. You're productive today.
I listen to a lot of McShay, Daniel Jeremiah, the usuals, wherever I listen to my podcast. The consensus is there's no sexy quarterbacks, so the draft hasn't been as sexy this year.
Yep.
The other thing is up the first 2, if people have no idea, Aiden Hutchinson, Trayvon Walker seem to be 1-2 or 2-1.
Which is wild. Yeah.
Explain why that's wild, if you would.
Here's how I kind of, this may be rude, but here's how I kind of lightly put this Trayvon Walker situation. Trayvon Walker is a very good athlete. He's an elite athlete, but he's just not a very, very good football player yet.
Right.
And really, if you're taken in the top 10 in the NFL draft, you kind of already have to be a good football player.
Yeah.
There is a point where, hey, you get to the second, third, fourth round, especially day 3, where traits, you want to take a guy that's traits. You want to take a guy that has those traits because you're not going to find a lot of just good football players day 3. So you want to take the guy with the athletic traits, the explosiveness, et cetera, et cetera. So Trayvon Walker, though, if you're going to be taking him number 1, number 2, number 3, if you're going to be taking him in that top 5, top 10, he just hasn't really shown to be a really good football player yet. And a lot of people talk about, well, Georgia and the scheme didn't tell him to do certain things. And that is true to a point where Georgia and that elite defense, by the way, there's probably like 5, 6, 7 starters on that Georgia defense who is going to be like day 1 and day 2 picks, which is crazy. I think Alabama, the way that Georgia defense is going this year puts Alabama to shame on a good year. It's just nuts. So Trayvon Walker, though, doesn't use his hands that well. He has the strength. He has the elite explosiveness. So there is upside to taking him. But number 1, number 2, that's tough. It's tough. But a team is going to talk themselves into him. Like there's too much smoke there. There's too much smoke for there not to be fire at this point.
Yeah, it's going to be funny to look back at the Georgia team in a few years because that defense was so good, and there's so many talented guys that are going first and second round, and it's like you're saying, it becomes the draft argument of the freaks versus who's the linebacker there that everyone loves that people are debating if he's a first round or second round pick.
You got Devin Lloyd is up there too. Nakobe Dean is the one I was thinking about. Everyone kind of that I listen to has been saying that he's one of like the best football players in the draft, but positionally at inside linebacker and some of the freaky measurements that have now become so important in the NFL draft. Some of the his own teammates
outshine him. But if you watch Georgia game tape, he's the guy that you're like, well, he makes every play.
Yeah, Nakobe Dean is the one that's just like running around. He's running around the football field like a nut, making those plays. And he's a linebacker that can do multiple things and not just one of these linebackers that can move sideline to sideline and he's fast. So Nakobe Dean is fun. That entire Georgia defense is fun. Another guy that you're talking about positional value and is he worth taking that early? Jordan Davis is a mammoth of a human being. Just look up pictures of Jordan Davis and you're gonna have a good time if you're a sucker for the big hog mollies up front. Jordan Davis is another guy where I'm interested to see where he goes on Georgia because weight is a concern.
Right.
And this is some tackles and some offensive linemen have this concern too. And you see it with Mekhi Becton and with the Jets, they have 2 top 10 picks. What are they going to do? So we're going to talk about that too. But if you weigh a lot, can you keep the weight down? Because right now you're around the time of the year where these guys are at the best, or they're in the best shape of their life.
Right.
So can they keep that weight down at the pros when maybe they get a little less strict with their weight?
So let's do New York quick because I was gonna say let's work our way down the draft a little bit. The Texans, although they are a pivot point in the draft, whether it's Thibodeau or one of the linemen, but I guess this almost ties into New York, and I was laughing because I was remembering all the tweets during the season of if the season ended today, the Jets and Giants would have the picks 4 through 8 or whatever it was, like those tweets.
They're all like consecutive, yeah.
The New York Jets have the 4 pick, the Giants have the 5, the Giants have the 7, the Jets have the 10. So 4 of the top 10 picks will be going to New York. You guys specialize in talking Giants, the G-men. BBD is a Giants fan. I guess it starts with 5 and then it goes to 7, right? Yeah. And you and I talked about this a little bit yesterday. I guess what's our best case, worst case?
I think for both teams, edge offensive tackle. I think for best case for both teams is going edge offensive tackle. For the Giants, now there's tackles that you wouldn't want. And I think especially for the Giants, I think the Giants are in more dire need of a tackle than the Jets because the Jets at least have Becton. They at least have George Fant, where at this point they're kind of just looking for depth. Now, you don't know what Mekhi Becton's future is, but the Giants just don't have a right tackle. Like, right. We're looking for human beings with pulses, and that's really the way that I would summarize the Giants' offseason so far, is that the Giants have signed players that have pulses that are football players because they haven't gone out and they haven't spent a lot of money, and that's what they need right now. And luckily, the Giants are going to have 9 shots. They're going to have 9 bullets to add up pulses. Usually bullets kill pulses, but you understand the metaphor. I would love Evan Neal Ekemekonu at 5. Okay. I would love that. And if a couple funky things happen in the top 4, like a Trayvon Walker, if a Malik Willis happens in the top 4 to the Lions, or if a team trades up, I mean, that is the ideal scenario that one of those 2 tackles or possibly both would fall. And then for the Giants, we're smiling because we get to have our choice at the top 2. And the Jets are also smiling too because if they want to go tackle, then they get, probably the second guy on their board if the Giants and the Jets have the same. So Evan Neal Ekemekonu, and in a way, I'm a little bit jealous of where the Jets are sitting because 4, they're going to be in a better spot to grab a player that they like, right? Because you're just ahead more. And then 10, you're in a spot where this isn't a very front-loaded, heavy draft class. Like, I think after you get past pick 5, you may be picking a player that is like, I don't really feel fully comfortable taking him in the top 10, but I have to, right? Because teams aren't going to want to trade because it's not a QB-heavy class, and teams usually don't trade up for non-quarterbacks. So Jets are in a good spot because at 10, at least you know that you're going to be getting a player that's like, yeah, is this guy a top 10 pick? Maybe not really, but I can understand where we're going to go and we can still get a really good football player. Whereas the Giants at 7, if the board falls a certain way, they may be reaching for a player. Like, I wouldn't love a Derek Stingley Jr. from LSU. The guy had his best year in 2019 and has barely played throughout 2020 and 2021, had season-ending injuries in both years. So he put on his best tape in 2019, so that's not great. Charles Cross is another guy who Bobby and I are both very kind of off on from Mississippi State. Wide splits up front in that air raid offense at Mississippi State. So when you're further away from the quarterback, it's easier to kind of block, and you have more margin for error. And Charles Cross is also a guy that opens up his hips right away. You like everything within the first second you hate everything within the first second to second and a half with Charles Cross. I'm saying this wrong. You hate everything within the first second to second half. you love everything that comes after that second and a half because he's able to recover well.
Okay. You coach that in. So
there's a lot. I feel like Charlie Day. You know that
you're feeling. I mean, this is your time of year. This is why you're hot, baby.
The boards, you know, it's so like because there's no consensus quarterbacks. You know, last year you had quarterbacks go 1 through 3. You had T. Law.
Yeah.
You had you had Trey Lance, and then you had Zach Wilson.
T. Law.
So those are the first 3 quarterbacks that came off the board, and you're like, fine, that's just how the NFL draft goes. This year you don't have that, and because of that, and also there's no consensus top dogs in this class. The boards of these NFL teams are probably looking so drastically different.
This is going to be a messy draft.
It could be.
This is going to be a messy draft.
It kind of shake out anyway.
Yeah.
Everything that you're saying, and it kind of makes sense. So I guess Giants. We'll finish this off.
Yeah.
You're expecting. I don't want to say sexy's the wrong word, because O-line and D-line, especially for you guys, can be very sexy.
Mm-hmm.
But you're not expecting any skill position. You're expecting in the trenches, basically.
Yeah.
O-line, D-line.
Yeah. Corner could be.
Corner could happen too.
Sauce Gardner, Derek Stingley. I mean,
okay.
Those are the two that I can see.
You
know, the Giants had him in for private workouts. The Jets could also go corner too, even though I think a lot of their fan base would not be thrilled with not taking an offensive tackle, or especially edge, because the Jets really want those premier edge rushers. Robert Saleh, coming from San Francisco, you know, they have one of the Bosa brothers over there. So that fits them a little bit better in what San Fran does and how they've been successful over the years. But I think my prediction is that Jets and Giants fans are going to be smiling after night 1 because of the funky things that happen with some other teams that are picking ahead of them. Somebody's going to bite on a quarterback. Somebody.
Kind of.
What are the chances?
Mm-hmm.
Give me a percentage that the New York Giants could draft a quarterback. I hate to do this to you, but I also like to do this.
How about 6.9? Can we do that?
Yeah, you sure can.
Sure. 6.9.
Because, I mean, that would be nuclear.
Yeah, the way that they structured Tyrod Taylor's contract, which I can't believe I'm saying this, like, why is Tyrod Taylor going to stop the Giants from drafting a quarterback? The way that they structured Tyrod Taylor's contract, it's more backloaded next year. So they're preparing for a world where Tyrod Taylor is their starter next year. I don't think they would have done that if, like, hey, we're just going to take Malik Willis, and Malik Willis can sit on the bench for a year when Daniel Jones is the starter this year, or Daniel Jones could, be sat this year if we take a guy like Malik Willis. And Malik Willis is the only quarterback that I would really entertain in this draft class if I were the Giants. Now, if I'm a team like the Steelers, the Saints, a guy like Matt Corral is kind of interesting because he has kind of that quick trigger. But for the Giants and Brian Dable and the system that they run, Malik is the only guy that I would really entertain. So, and also, the Giants took Davis Webb. We're talking third-string quarterback from Cal, who was drafted by the Giants a long time ago to be like Eli Manning's replacement.
Right.
They took him from the Bills this year, and he was supposed to be the Bills' quarterback coach. Like, he was going to go from practice squad quarterback for the Buffalo Bills, and they were going to promote him all the way up to be like, that's like a hot job. And you kind of have like a fast track to become like an OC and then like a head coach if you're a QB coach. So the Giants signed him to their roster not to be a practice squad guy. You would think, like, if we're going to take you away from a job that's a QB coach and we're going to bring you to be a third-string quarterback, we're not going to bump you down to the practice squad. So the Giants have 3 quarterbacks that are definitely going to be on their roster this year. So I don't see them adding a quarterback.
Man, those would love to get in Webb's head for those conversations.
I would also like him to get into Davis's Webb.
Should I become a coach or should I keep playing football?
Yeah. He wanted to keep playing, and I kind of admire that.
Him.
I kind of admire that, even though he's not playing, he's not starting. But I mean, that's a hot job that he kind of said no to, like being the QB coach for Josh Allen.
Right, you're basically penciled in for success.
This isn't just like being the QB coach for a Joe Schmo. This is being the quarterback coach for Josh Allen, and if you find success in like 2 years, you're going to be an OC. And he said no. Love that.
Good for him.
Yeah.
Good for him.
Okay.
Okay.
He's only 27, maybe. I see why you want to play as long as you can.
That's crazy.
But man, he got offered that job.
He was going to be, on track to be like a 30-year-old.
Yeah, like a McVay, like a Sean McVay on one of these.
There's
young
a world
guys
where
that
that's how it could have shaken out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, we will track the Davis Webb story as it goes. I've got a silly question.
Yeah.
Who do you love? Like,
I
who do you
love?
love in this draft? Like, maybe middle, late first round, or just someone that you're like, because that's kind of the other weird part about this draft.
Yeah.
Like you were saying at the top, I mean, even you basically get to pick number 2, and we're asking questions about guys, whether it's Trayvon Walker, Kayvon Thibodeau. If Malik Willis does sneak his way up, the wide receivers, everyone has their own flavor of pick. Even Evan Neal, who you've referenced a few times now, I've heard a lot of scouts say, like, this guy isn't like a lock. Like, he's, a big old O-lineman from Bama that's, that he's got a good chance to be good, but he's also, there's some holes. I
Take your chances.
So I guess who do you love?
And I keep on talking. I know we're talking a lot of O-line stuff. I know we are. We'll get to talking
fine.
some skill position stuff. But I think 2 of the best players that are just going to come out of this draft. And at the end of the day, the NFL draft is about drafting good football players, right? Positional value does very much matter. But at the end of the day, you look back 5 years from now and you evaluate draft classes of, is this a good football player, yes or no? And 2 of those good football players are Zion Johnson and Kenyon Green. Zion Johnson is an interior offensive lineman from Boston College. Kenyon Green is an interior offensive lineman from Texas A&M. And those are 2 players that are they're different playing styles. Zion Johnson is a really, really good athlete. Kenyon Green tested poorly at the combine, but he can move in space, but he's a lot more stronger. These are going to be 2 of the guys that are going to be just good football players and the best football players that come out of this draft. And I'm very, very confident in that. And I really do think that one of these 2 guys, if the Cowboys are smart, which I know, hey, Cowboys, America's team. I'm sure there's some Cowboy fans listening to that. I'm excited to see what they're going to do at pick 24 because I think that they should go the interior offensive line route, and I do think those guys will ultimately be there. There's a lot of teams that need offensive linemen. There's going to be teams that are going to be scared to pick interior guys because the position isn't as valuable, but these guys are locks, and if the Giants are in a position where they're trading back, I will be slamming my fist on the table, being like, take Zion Johnson, take Kenyon Green. And those are 2 guys I also really do like Devin Lloyd, too. So okay. I know I mentioned him a little earlier. I love Devin Lloyd. And, you saw the success that Micah Parsons had last year, linebacker from Penn State. And he's an edge rusher, but he's also that interior linebacker. Now, I think Micah Parsons is a better edge rusher than he is interior linebacker. I think the Cowboys should think about moving him there full time, but I don't think that they will, because he has that versatility. Why not keep that versatility? But Devin Lloyd, unlike Micah Parsons, who is a better edge rusher than interior linebacker, Devin Lloyd's a better interior linebacker than edge rusher, but he can line up in both of those spots. And that's where you may see a lot of these more successful interior linebackers. That's what you may see them do because the spot of interior linebacker, the value is kind of dwindling in an NFL where you're putting more secondary players on the field, more nickel, more 11 personnel, more 10 personnel where you're spreading out the football field, right? You see that with the Cincinnati Bengals and Zach Taylor, the formations that they run. You're taking these linebackers on the field and you want to put more cornerbacks and safeties on the field. But if you can have an interior linebacker that could also rush the passer and could line up in the edge, I mean, that is such a game changer. So I love Devin Lloyd. And if it wasn't irresponsible to take him at 7, if the board falls a certain way, I think he can be a top 10 if it wasn't irresponsible to do it.
I love it. What the wide receivers?
Yes,
they are probably the most fun part of this draft. I guess at least from the general perspective. And NFL drafts are heading this way because college offenses are becoming so pass heavy, and because NFL offenses are becoming so pass heavy that the wide receiver position, there's potential for 6-7 guys or so.
Yeah, I just did the quick math. 6 divided by 32 is 18%. So like 20% of the first round picks could be wide receivers.
Mathpod.
Yes.
Who do you like? Because again, this is another funny one where there's the consensus is there's no consensus. There's Drake London is the big boy, and apparently he's got a work ethic that's awesome, that you dream of, especially from the wide receiver position.
It's like a Brandon Marshall. Like, that's the body type that he kind of has.
There's the 2 guys out of Ohio State, Garrett Wilson and Olave, who Olave, if you casually watch college football, I think he was the guy that kind of jumped off the screen a little more. If you watch an Ohio State game, it seemed like he was always making big plays. Jamison Williams, the speedster from Bama. I've heard people talk about Treylon Burks from Arkansas.
I love Treylon Burks.
The way the people who I respect their football opinions and the way they talk about him, If I had to sprinkle investment cheddar on some of these guys, it'd be him. Like people freak out about him.
The only thing with Traylon Burks, and I hate this. I was listening to a podcast that's kind of a little bit more, definitely more plugged in than I am. I'm not really plugged in, and I don't really consider myself like a scout. So also take that with a grain of salt too. But I was listening to a podcast that was talking about Traylon Burks' usage at Arkansas, and that's important when you look at a player for both looking at finding pros and then also finding cons. Traylon Burks is a 6'3", I have his size right here, 6'2", 225-pound wide receiver. So, I mean, he's a big physical wide receiver. He's big. And he was used in, this intermediate part of the game. He was one of the leaders in the country in screen attempts and screen yards and screen catches. So it's well, why is this big physical wide receiver being used in the screen game? Now, you can have a bad offense with a bad quarterback, which at Arkansas they certainly did have, but also heard about some things this is just how they had to use him because, not learning the playbook and, not being fully up to speed. Hey, let's just snap the ball, get you the ball. So there's not that much that has to happen in the middle of getting you the ball. Right. So that's the only bad thing that I heard about Traylon Burks, but he would be an option for the first round. If the Giants had, hey, pick 20, pick 25, or even if he lasts to 36. I'll tell you what, even if he lasts to 36 on day 2, even with some of those concerns, if the Giants do their background work and Traylon Burks is there in the second round, I take him. But yeah, there's so many good wide receivers, and the way that you were talking about the way the game is moving to a passing league, but also the way the college game is going too, because there is so much passing now. You are seeing so many advanced wide receivers, and it's a thing that's happening every single year. Even guys I'm looking at the third round. Christian Watson is a guy that could be there second, third round. Love him. Love him. John Mechie is a slot guy from Alabama. Alec Pierce is a guy that Bobby and I really, really love from Cincinnati, and he got the chance to go up against Sauce Gardner and Kobe Bryant every day. There's a Kobe Bryant in this draft. There's an Isaiah Thomas in this draft. There's 2 other basketball names in this
Kobe Bryant?
I think it's with the C.
Colby?
Kobe.
Kobe, but with the C. Okay.
With the C. Calvin Austin, the third, he's a small slot guy from Memphis. There's just so many fun guys, and you may see teams either go crazy with wide receiver, which that's what we have seen the last couple years, where there's just a run of wide receivers in the first round. But also you may see teams back off and say, I don't want to take wide receivers in the first round because there's just so much good value in the draft throughout the entire draft with these wide receivers.
No, I mean, even, got further into football this year, and I was very happy with that because I was worried it was going to fade a little bit. Basketball was tough, but even Justin Ross from Clemson, 6'4". I'm looking at a rankings right now that has him as the 21st wide receiver in this draft, and and
he wouldn't be the 21st if he had some really bad injuries. I think some spinal stuff, but he wouldn't be the 21st guy if it weren't for those injuries. So if a team is able to look at his medicals and be like, hey, we think we can get something. And also, it comes a point where if you're picking day 3 of the NFL draft, the odds of this pick turning out to be something good anyway is very, very slim. So if you feel like you got a guy, you take him. And definitely wide receiver, and a lot of these wide receivers, they definitely fall in that category.
I love it. Let's do the fun one, Penik. Quarterback. I'm starting to love with the stock equation. Not that I'm not involved in the stock market at all. I guess I'd like to be. Me and BBD were crypto guys for a little bit.
Yeah.
Does our crypto still suck?
Yeah, I mean we obtained our crypto at an all-time high, so that was unfortunate timing. But I think we just
crypto.
I just do anything Trevor tells me.
Our investor extraordinaire, Trevor Plouffe.
I also do anything Trevor tells me.
Yeah, might not, right? So I guess the conversation starts with you get 2 bets basically.
Who do you want to start with?
You get the bet to be who's going to be the best quarterback out of this draft.
Okay.
And then you get your sprinkle, because I think the first 2 names are Willis and Pickett. They've been discussed a lot.
Yeah.
After that, you already mentioned Matt Corral. A lot of people like him, and if you watched him in college, he was an awesome watch. I mean, one of the purest forms of entertainment to his own detriment. He was so aggressive that he got beat up. And And then there's a lot of other fun ones. If anyone remembers Cincinnati this year, Desmond Ridder, he was a lot of fun. He's played a lot of college football, which that matters to some teams.
No, it does. Yeah.
Sam Howell. So I guess who's the guy, and then who's your sprinkle on who could be the guy?
Okay.
Who's your odds?
So I do think Matt Corral is going to wind up being the best quarterback.
Okay.
I have that feeling because so much of it is centered around situation. I think Malik Willis may be the first guy that's taken, and I have a feeling he may go to the worst situation. But I'll talk about Matt Corral first. Matt Corral was in an offense that was very, very RPO-centered. And the league is kind of trending towards that direction. And I have a feeling Matt Corral could go to a team that could really integrate the RPOs well into their offense. So the Pittsburgh Steelers, that was a team with Big Ben the last couple of years. I don't know if they want to transition away from this, but if they want to stay with the quick release, get the ball, hey, RPO, you're going to hand it off, play action, whatever, you can integrate both of those things in and then get rid of the ball. And that's what Matt Corral did at Ole Miss. And he did it very, very well. I mean, he also had the splash throws of, throwing it deep, and he has a kind of nice deep arm as well.
How much do you get caught into coaches like Lane Kiffin?
Yeah, is
that a plus or a minus that he was coached by Lane Kiffin, or did he have like a big advantage?
It depends who the team is.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, you're going to have a team, I just want to use this as an example, a team, maybe Andy Reid, for example. Andy Reid with Patrick Mahomes, and they have a very high average depth of target. They're looking to push the ball down the field with explosive plays. I could be off on this. I'm just using this as an example. Matt Corral had a lower average depth of target. He's not throwing the ball deep down the field. So Andy Reid, when they're doing their quarterback rankings, they're not going to draft one, but every NFL team, they do this every year. They do their big board rankings of positional rankings, and they're probably going to have Corral a little bit lower because maybe his average depth of target was not as much, and he doesn't have that experience, doesn't have that pedigree. Pittsburgh Steelers, the last couple of years, and their offense that they've been running, they have been very quick base, intermediate. The New Orleans Saints, there was a little rumblings that with their new regime and their new head coach that they might want to get back to what they were doing with Drew Brees in the early days, where it's like quick release, go, boom, 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 but also throwing it down the field too and having that nice little balance in there too. So I think those two teams that may be looking for quarterbacks, Steelers and Saints, if a guy like Corral is able to go there, I'm kind of excited for his future and excited to see what he can do.
Okay. I like that. Yeah, the Steelers, it's kind of funny because, Kenny Pickett, Pittsburgh, and there's all the hand stuff.
If they want to I think that's a very comfortable pick. Kenny Pickett, out of all these quarterbacks, it is the most comfortable and can easily see him becoming, okay, you're going to be an Andy Dalton, you're going to be a Kirk Cousins, which this is something I want to ask you. I was thinking about this, when you sent me your questions. Because I'm so into football, and we're such psychopaths. If you're a football day in and day out guy, where I have a certain opinion of quarterbacks and taking quarterbacks and if quarterbacks are worth it. And the question that you actually asked me in the text messages, do you hate quarterbacks like in the draft? Like, do you just hate how quarterbacks, like how teams take them?
Yeah.
So what's your approach if you're Broncos without Russell Wilson? Broncos don't have Russell Wilson, and they take a guy like Kenny Pickett. What are your thoughts?
Amongst this draft class?
Yes.
Honestly, I think the quarterback game has proven to be so near impossible that I say, okay, let's find out. And I think, you have to, I think the biggest step after that is finding your threshold. Trevor Lawrence, going back to last year, one of the best quarterback prospects ever, right? Led these Clemson teams against Bama, and he's the build and the running and the throwing. It was all there, right?
Yep.
He has one of the worst rookie seasons you've ever seen. The Urban Meyer stuff, obviously a big factor in that. And then the last game against the Colts, he busts out that performance. So for Kenny Pickett, and again, my Broncos, I saw a lot of bad quarterback play for a couple years.
Right.
Brock.
And that's the thing of, where I'm trying to get at is teams just sometimes take quarterbacks because they need quarterbacks, and I get it. Like, you need a guy to play quarterback, and you need a guy that is kind of good, or you at least think can kind of be decent. But if Kenny Pickett's ceiling is Andy Dalton, If Kenny Pickett's
Right.
ceiling is Kirk Cousins, which, hey, Kirk Cousins isn't bad. You can debate that, and I certainly think he's good. But, if your ceiling is Andy Dalton, Kirk Cousins,
Right.
is that really worth it?
They had no chance to ever be like a top
Right.
guy.
Right.
I guess it's just where ceiling gets scary for me in NFL football. Because, like, what are guys' true ceilings? Like,
Right.
what was Derek Carr's ceiling? Like, I don't know. Can
Right.
Kenny Pickett be a Derek Carr? I don't know. Derek
Carr was a second-round pick.
Carr's got a little bit of the gunslinger in him. Like, I get what you're saying, and it turns.
And I don't even know. Like, I'm asking.
Right.
I don't even know.
It turns into the scope of sports, right? Where that stat for years was that every AFC championship game was Peyton, Big Ben, or whatever for a year. So you do one of those, and for the NBA, it's LeBron had been in every Eastern Conference Finals for X amount of years or whatever. And you do this, okay, so what matters? Like, okay, the Orlando Magic got the 7th seed this year. It's like, well, they got better, blah, blah, blah. For football, if you don't have a quarterback, you have no chance.
Yeah.
You have no chance. And that's where Drew Lock, it felt like the book was written. There wasn't a huge sample size, but it didn't pass the eye test.
Right.
And then if you're going Teddy Bridgewater, who, I know some of the numbers were nice, and actually a few of the games I was lucky enough to watch this year were some of the good ones. And I was like, all right, Teddy ball game. Like, let's go.
It's kind of wildly okay.
Yeah. It was like, all right, Teddy, like that game they rolled the Cowboys. Like, that was awesome. But what are we getting? What are we working towards?
Exactly.
Especially in a division where it's Mahomes and it's Herbert and it's Carr.
Yep.
That you're coming into every season basically saying, I'm going to have the worst quarterback in the division, and we're going to have to be so much better at every aspect of the game that, if you don't have the quarterback, I said it last year, and I don't even like him as a player, but the Bears quarterback, Fields.
Yes.
He was there for the Broncos. They ended up taking the cornerback who's a stud, and like I very much appreciate that, and it ties into this whole conversation of now the Broncos have a stud cornerback going forward instead of Justin Fields, which, I mean, flip a coin this year.
Yep.
Who knows if he's going to be productive or not? Which again starts tying into situation. Like, I like the Broncos' skill in front office a lot more than what the Bears are offering. So
quarterback.
The answer is there's no answer.
Yes.
If I had the answer, I'd be getting paid millions of dollars in a front office.
And NFL,
and I'm open to that.
And 32 NFL teams would also have it figured out too. Quarterback, I think, and let me know, you're more of a bigger sports guy than I am. I'm a big football guy, and I dabble baseball. I like baseball.
You do like baseball.
We love baseball. Quarterback is the most complicated position in sports. It is the most complicated position because you have a guy like Dan Orlovsky who's played the position, and I really do like Dan Orlovsky. I think he's very smart. Dan Orlovsky says that quarterback is the most dependent position on what is happening, everything else around him. But then you also have other people that are saying quarterback, they have to make it happen. Quarterbacks have to make it happen. They have to take a bad team and they have to rise above the bad scheme, the bad situation, a bad defense. So and I feel like both of those takes, they're not wrong.
Yeah.
They're not wrong, even though they're polar opposites.
Pretty
of each other.
reasonably believe either.
Yeah.
There's like a time. There's a time coaching equation where it's you come into the league, you need so much support around you, O-line, skill, coaching, and then at a certain point, that needs to like cross over where you need to be helping your O-line, helping your talent, making plays for your coaches. And no one has that timeline figured out. And that's where I was actually, I have a lot of shower thoughts. You may have heard those on Talking Yanks, Talking Baseball. I genuinely think the Giants kind of did this. The Jets did this. And that's where I think this year, and I think football fans will appreciate this, if you have a young quarterback, the Broncos kind of did this with Drew Lock a little bit. You do your invest in all the skill position. I think that's what the Jets are going to do this year. They drafted the wide receiver last year. I wouldn't be surprised if they draft wide receiver, running back in the first 2 rounds this year, and they say, hey, last year, you were in the shit. We'll be honest with you. You didn't have a lot of help at all. And Zach Wilson, I was tough on him early on. He showed some serious growth.
He did, yeah.
With nothing around him.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Gotta have that line.
Elijah Moore, I think he's
Elijah
good.
Moore, yeah.
But he was out, and he was
still have
back.
Chris Davis, too, for another year.
But I think this is the find out year
Yep.
where the Jets, I think their dream draft is they go tackle, wide receiver, running back. And they say, here you go, kid.
Yeah.
We're going to find out. You've had a year of NFL. You've had a year of coaching. This is it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of this whole quarterback time value equation that everyone's trying to figure out. And then you end up stumbling into the Dak Prescotts. Is Matt Corral a Dak Prescott? Like, what was Dak Prescott's ceiling coming into the draft?
Well, clearly he was a 4th-round pick, Dak Prescott. So if
I
you're
know there was
talking
some funny business before the draft. Did he get a DUI or something like that?
I don't think so. Hey, and
I
he's
think there was
Dallas
a little
Cowboy.
bit of Dak funny business before
Dallas
the
Cowboy.
draft. But either way, Giants, Cowboys, easy with that. I guess that would be my thing. What was Dak Prescott's ceiling coming into the draft?
But clearly it was a 4th rounder, not that
It
high.
wasn't who he is now. He clearly passed it. So
And you could even make an argument.
ceiling quarterbacks.
You could even make an argument. Can Dak Prescott?
What was Russell Wilson's ceiling coming into
Again,
the
as
NFL draft?
what was he? He wasn't a 1st-round pick. So that's why again it's so
Wallace,
unpredictable.
That was his best case, like a 5'10" quarterback.
And that's also what leads me to Malik Willis too. Like you talked about who I think is going to be the best quarterback out of this draft in terms of having a good career. I think it's going to be Matt Corral. I have a feeling Malik Willis is going to go to a bad situation, and that's going to screw him over. It's going to screw him over because Malik Willis, you look at him, he's the only quarterback in this draft class that has this. You see Lamar, you see the ability to run. I mean, if there's one area of his game that is not an exaggeration when you talk about Malik Willis, he is as good of a runner as Lamar, except I think he's more physical. He's bigger. He's more physical.
Stout.
He has that kind of like a little bit of Josh Allen in terms of that running ability where you can use him as a 3rd and short weapon and as a red zone weapon, which that is so valuable in the NFL. If you have a team that's good on 1st and 2nd down, the whole idea of good NFL teams is that you don't get the 3rd down. But if you get the 3rd down, you want to get the 3rd and short. And if you have that running quarterback that you can just integrate that aspect of the game in there,
it's a massive
awesome.
threat.
Red zone as well. Red zone is where you get the creativity of the play caller, and then really you need that execution. Good teams separate themselves on 3rd down and then also the red zone. So Malik Willis, he has that arm too. I mean, just arm talent, arm strength, those things that you can't teach, the things that are just God-given, Malik Willis has. And you get excited over it, but there's also, the things that you could say that, hey, Mahomes had all those things, but at least some things were more reined in and his technique was better and his accuracy was better. That's the thing with Willis is that he has those upside traits and he has the potential to be like those guys, not maybe as good, but he has the potential to be like Lamar, like Mahomes, like Allen, because he has those traits. But is he going to go to a bad team? And is he going to have to maybe start right away when he's not ready? And what is the scheme going to ask him to do? That's the bottom line, and that's why I'm nervous for Malik Willis to see where he's going to go. Because if he goes to the Lions and he's taken 2nd overall, I'm not feeling great about what a psychopath Dan Campbell break your kneecaps is gonna have in mind for him.
That's where I disagree with you.
If it feels like I feel like everywhere I go read like draft stuff and quarterback rankings or whatever for this draft, it's like kind of everybody you can see if they end up in the right situation, like how that'll work out. Like they got either they're great decision makers, toolsy, whatever. And it feels like Malik Willis, like someone's just gonna fall in love with the tools that are there and perhaps reach. And it does feel like he's just destined to end up in a unfavorable situation.
I really like him. I really like him, man.
I guess what's the favorable situation? Is it the Steelers?
I guess
that's the win for any of these rookie quarterbacks.
Again, I feel like everywhere I like go and read stuff, it feels like everyone's sentiment is like kind of whichever guy the Steelers end up with is gonna.
Seahawks could need a quarterback, but you could even look at Russell Wilson and be like, was that a favorable spot for Russell Wilson? Like he was really good, and I think he kind of elevated everybody. But until Pete Carroll's out of there, I don't think going to the Seahawks is a quarterback-friendly spot. But, he could be a Seahawk, and that team is not bad. Year in and year out, that team, they're not a bad football team. So Malik Willis could go there. And go Falcons. Falcons need a quarterback as well. The mock draft that I did for Talking Giants tonight, I'm looking in the 2nd round. They got Sam Howell out of North Carolina in the second round, which, there's going to come a point where these guys are going to get picked.
Yeah, I think I think it's funny, and that's why I actually phrased my quarterback question to you like I did.
Do you hate quarterback? Yeah, got it.
Was because this draft is getting less publicity because there's no big-time quarterbacks.
Yeah.
And then the first, again, where I get my draft stuff, the first question has been about the quarterbacks, even though this draft is not about the quarterbacks because it's a quarterback-driven league.
There's going to be a team.
We have all the rules.
There's going to be a team that is going to, and I can't tell you what team, but this is just how the league works. There's going to be a team that is going to start schwitzing, sweating Thursday night. We need a quarterback. We feel lost if we don't have a quarterback. We got to take one. We got to take one. We got to take one. Somebody else is going to take him. He's not going to last. And they're going to trade up. I don't know how far. Hey, it used to be you trade up to the top 5, top 10. It may not be that this year, but there's going to be a team that is going to trade for a quarterback, and it's inevitable. Even though this is a quote unquote a bad quarterback class, which I would agree with that it is not a good quarterback.
Well,
class.
no,
Like everyone's known that all year, but it's still what happened.
Oh, yeah,
it just takes one team to fully believe.
Yes, exactly.
the fun fact that I really liked, and I think is definitely going to start becoming a trend, and it's a popular conversation in Giants land right now, is teams sneaking up into the end of the first round to get a quarterback, because if you draft a quarterback in the first round, you get the 5th-year option.
Yes.
So that's where I saw a couple people saying the Lions, I think they have one of the last draft picks of the first round.
Well, they have
31.
Let me check on this. They have 34. They also, let me check round 1. Do the Lions have
So they have 32.
They have 32.
They have 32 as well.
So they have the last pick in the first round. So
Man.
a lot of people are saying that the Lions can wait for a quarterback, and if it's there, it's there. Or if you're a team that wants to get a quarterback, the 4 teams before the Lions are Bengals. They're okay. Chiefs.
Yep.
They're also okay. And the Green Bay Packers.
And the Bucks and the Titans and the Bills and the Cowboys, Cardinals all before.
I think we're going to see some quarterback chaos at the end of the first round. A team trades in. Because, and the other team that I heard as a late wild card that I kind of liked was the Titans getting in this QB game. Ryan Tannehill.
What's the contract?
Guess Ryan Tannehill's age.
33.
Is he like 29?
He's 34.
34. I had no guess.
I mean, he did full college, I think, even with a redshirt year, and then he had his Dolphins years and then Titans years.
He's been around for a while.
He's 34.
I figured when you asked the question, it was going to be he's sneaky young.
Right, but he was kind of the Titans' weak spot last year. He's 34. Like
he has one more year left on his contract after this.
So if you're looking for a team that maybe can shake up this whole mix, who do you like? So
the
I'm
roster we've known.
I'm excited to see. See. And the other thing, when we talk about quarterbacks and ceilings and potential, Jalen Hurts got a lot of crap because it was like he was going to a bad team. He didn't have the traditional quarterback passing skills.
You're a big Hurts guy.
I'm not, and that's kind of the funny part. But he exceeded everyone's expectations this year.
Yep.
And whether it's Malik Willis or Matt Corral or whoever it is, everyone's saying Malik Willis needs to go. Every quarterback needs to go to the right situation. But if he can find a spot that they can use his legs to help him survive and get better and grow as the season go on, we'll see. I'll say this. My parting thing, and maybe this is just me being not a hater or a fader, or I'm just making up words now. If you told me the list I'm looking at right now, the 1-2 is Willis and Pickett, and the 3-4 is Ritter and Corral, if I could take either of those two pairings, I would go Ritter and Corral. I believe in Corral's talent and the way he plays. And Ritter, I think there's something, like think about the quarterback formula when you look around the league at where quarterbacks come from. There's usually it's not a lot of the premier colleges, and they were surrounded by the best O-lines. Cincinnati and the way that program got built.
And Ritter helped build that program.
50 starts to the point that they got Cincinnati into the college football playoffs, where they got probably the worst possible matchup they could have gotten.
And we've talked about arm talent. We've talked about all these different things, mobility and your ability to run, and so much of these athleticism things, right? What you're getting with Ritter is if you're kind of a little bit more of an old school team that wants to bet on the brain, if you want to bet on a guy that's going to work hard, a guy that's going to improve, because that's also a huge aspect of it too, and that's the whole thing with the NFL draft is you don't just want to draft players who you think are going to be good, but you want players who they're going to work hard and they're going to get better, and that's what is so interesting about the draft process because we don't know it. Kind of sitting here with sitting here talking about it with the microphone. We don't know, and we're trying to judge these guys without knowing that information. But these teams know these guys like the back of their hands, and I have a feeling Ritter's going to be one of those guys where he's going to work hard, he's going to put in the work to get better. So hey, he doesn't have the athletic upside. I think as opposed to any of these quarterbacks, I think Howell's better athletically. Corral's better, Willis is better. But if Ritter's going to be the one to work the hardest, then hey, a team's going to fall in love with that, and he could be around for a long time.
And it's funny when we talk about these quarterbacks being athletic and when you actually go down the list, how many are using them or how many are smart and know how to use their arm and their accuracy and read a defense, whether it's
another huge part of it.
That's those second tiers of quarterbacks, whether it's, Matt Ryan's or guys like that, like, hey, you can be really good if you have everything else figured out along the way. Some life advice from Jake.
Wow.
We covered a lot, Penik. I guess, is there anything else, if we're talking NFL draft and we're finishing this up, that you need to get off their chest? No first-round running backs, it looks like?
No, I think there could be. Absolutely.
Maybe Breece Hall sneaks in.
Yeah. I think James Cook is going to go a lot higher than people think.
I love seeing a Spiller on the board.
Yeah, Isaiah Spiller. So there are teams like, hey, the Bills. The Bills could go running back in the first round. Like they're looking at their team being like, well, what do we need? Because they're so close. Like, they're so close to being, like, a fully complete roster. And especially when you have that quarterback figured out, like, hey, it helps everything else. So they're looking at, like, if they feel like they're running back away from winning a Super Bowl, then, you're in the back end of the first round. I'm not a big fan of taking running backs in the first round. And if I were the Bills, I'd rather take, like, one of those interior offensive linemen that I was talking about, Zion Johnson, Kenyon Green. But if they really feel like they're a running back away, they're going to do it. There's going to be running backs that are going to go earlier. But it also wouldn't surprise me if they don't go in the first round. So this is a fun draft. And here's what I'm going to say to you. Just hit the microphone. Here's what I'm going to say to you. Don't just watch day 1. Day 2 and 3, at least the beginning part of day 2. Only psychopaths are watching day 3. But the beginning part of day 2, there are going to be some really, really good football players available. And I am more excited. I am nervous about 5 and 7. I am very, very excited about picks 36, 67, 81 that the Giants have. And I love that they have a total of 5 top 100 picks, and that's very, very rare. They're one of the teams that has the most draft picks and draft value in the NFL draft. It's not like they have 9 picks, but 5 of them are in the 5th and 6th and 7th rounds. So I'm really excited. This is going to be a fun draft. I'm excited for your favorite team, and if you're a football fan, I'm just excited for you that there is going to be some semblance of football on this weekend. We're one step closer to actual football.
Yeah, man. It really is, and then you start dreaming about the whole roster and what works, what doesn't work.
Yep.
Just a couple Hail Mary thoughts I want on tape.
Yes.
I think Mechie's a stud. Whoever gets him, I think he's going to make an impact in the NFL. And
you asked me about fantasy stuff, like, hey, fantasy wide receivers. I think those slot guys, like,
and it matters what team you go to and everything too. That's
like for PPR. You're talking about Jahan Dotson from Penn State. Mechie's another guy that's a slot guy. Calvin Austin from Memphis. Those slot guys that can get a lot of catches and maybe do some fun stuff after the catch. Dotson, maybe not so much after the catch, but Dotson's like a quarterback's best friend. Those are going to be the guys that I think kind of like year one target and like, hey, you're going to get a lot of targets, you're going to get a lot of catches. So yeah, Mechie, love it.
The 2 guys that again, for my show, I just want to say when I watched them play football this year, I was blown away. They were everywhere. The 2 Baylor safeties, Petre, am I saying that right? And Woods. I watched a couple Baylor football games this year, and those guys were everywhere. Everywhere. And I know Hamilton's going to be the class of the safeties and one of the early picks. And by the way, if you watched any Notre Dame games, you couldn't not notice him.
He may fall a little bit, but
you think so?
Yeah, because I think
just because safeties aren't getting valued.
Well, also people were hyping him up like he was this Sean Taylor prospect. Kyle Hamilton's good. He's not Sean Taylor good. So I think you're going to see him fall to the teens. Like, people were talking about him being a top 10 pick and stuff like that. Washington, I think they're at 12. They could go Kyle Hamilton. Washington's also another team that low-key needs a quarterback. So, yeah, Kyle Hamilton may fall a little bit. But I like him. Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Justin Penik, thank you. What are we doing the next couple days? You guys are live Thursday, Friday, Saturday, right?
Yes. We will be live on the Talkin' Giants channel. May also try and be live from the Talkin' Football channel. Don't know how that works, BBD, if you can live stream from 2 channels at once. But worst comes to worst, it's just going to be on the Talkin' Giants channel. We're going to be live throughout the entire draft. And it won't just have the Giant mix and the Giants vibe to it. When the Giants are picking, that's what we're going to mainly be talking about. But throughout the entire draft, we're not going to be talking Giants for 17 hours. So we're going to be talking to the rest of the NFL and the rest of these draft prospects too. Bobby Skinner has been really killing it more than I have with looking at these prospects. My Google Doc is 63 pages long of prospects. That is longer than my senior thesis that I took 3 years to do. So hope you stick with us. JOMBOY Media Football, support us. You know, it's coming. We're doing it. And, you know, I'm kind of taking it personally that I want to be. I'm taking my glasses off for this. I want to be the next show and the next main thing that gets big on JOMBOY Media besides baseball. I'm taking it personally.
Okay.
I'm taking it very personally.
I love it. I love that. Justin Penik, incredible stuff. We will wrap up Wake and Jake as we always do. We'll do some comments of the day from last episode. Last time we were here, Noah's hot in the streets. Yankees fans throwing stuff on the field.
Well, that's not hot.
It was cold.
Kinda
It was
not
hot in the streets. It was a cold. It was a cold story. Brandon Neuschwander.
Yeah. Of course.
As a Guardians fan, thought Miles Straw was kind of weird guy early on, but now he's my favorite player. And he's low-key good at baseball. That's how you become a fan of a guy.
Yeah.
How about that? Trevor Jones, me and BBD, we were talking about Miguel Cabrera's 3,000th hit.
Mm-hmm.
And Trevor Jones said, told my fiance about Miggy's 3,000, and it turned into a deep dive on how underrated Ichiro is. She did not care, LOL. Glad you're here for me, Jake. That's beautiful.
Yes.
The exact conversation we
Deep
had.
dives.
Let's see. Who huge ass left a comment. Elijah
Huge
Ramos.
ass?
Yeah, huge ass.
It's about the Mets, baby. Love the Mets. Oh, Angel Hernandez was hot in the streets. You must take some offense to that as an umpire. What he does for your
It's not good for my
profession.
brand.
Yeah.
It's not. It's really not good for my brand at all. How did? I want to ask this question without seeming dumb. How does he have a job? Like, you have to.
Yeah.
Don't you have
Unions.
to be good?
Unions.
Man.
Um,
Do you think he intentionally makes it about himself? Like, do you think that's
Yes.
part of like
I do.
his thing?
I went back and forth whether he was just completely blind to it or about himself. I think Jimmy wanted to be completely blind, and I guess myself too. And then Jimmy also came around. Like, a lot of the like egregious missed calls are with like 2 strikes to like make the strikeout or to end the inning, and it's just.
It's like,
I think he's a person that knows he's on camera and knew it was Sunday Night Baseball, and
what do other
any PR is good PR.
What do other umpires think of him? Do you have that? You have connections all around. Do you have that information?
You know what? We haven't reached out to our friend in a while. Why am I blanking on his name?
Dale Scott?
Dale Scott.
Sent
His
us
book
his
is on
book.
my desk.
Yeah.
I would love Dale Scott would give us an answer, and he would deliver it beautifully, and he'd say something like, it's an extremely hard profession, blah, blah, blah.
If you actually look at how much he gets right.
Well, there'd also
know if
end
it'd
up being a
back
little
up,
bit of a
but-
dig somewhere at Angel Hernandez's
Sure.
umping.
Naturally.
And then this one also just made me laugh because I mentioned if it's late, if Jess is asleep, it's me and Noodle chilling, and I have the itch to. I've been starting to play the show a little bit, getting into the show. I'll put a baseball game on my phone.
I'm a show guy.
Whatever good baseball game is on, I'll go to the MLB app. And and then I'll play my game of the show, and I'll
Yeah.
boop, 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 boop,
Diamond Dynasty or franchise? Where are you at?
I'm a Diamond Dynasty Battle Royale. Diamond Dynasty Battle Royale.
Okay.
I like a draft.
That is your brain.
I like a draft
Sure
and an
thing.
even playing field. That's what I like. So I was talking about that, and Ryan commented, Jake watches baseball while he plays the show. I watch Jake talk about baseball while playing the show while I play the show.
I love that. Love that.
Little inception. So
Do you know the strategy behind Battle Royale and everything? You're getting it. Kind of avoid
mean?
starting
Oh, yeah.
pitchers and.
Oh, I was given the tutorial from Joe's.
Yeah.
Joe's and Zach.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I'm now learning because that's
Power, like Battle Royale, take power because you're facing pitchers that have lower overalls.
so I'm getting more into power. I will say I was blowing all the show players' mind in the office. I'm aggressive on the bases.
Really?
Yeah.
That, like kind of every baseball video game we play. That's like Jake's like brand of baseball. is
Yeah.
Create chaos, let them make a mistake.
It's because the Yankees have scarred you so
I
much
put-
that you want to just.
I push
do
the
it.
envelope.
Yeah.
I push the envelope. Do I get burned by it sometimes? Yes. Does
Like
it
it's-
work out sometimes? Yes.
Like a pretty good clip.
Yes. So
All right. Good.
and I'm figuring out the glitchy players, Adalberto Mondesi, guys like that.
Yeah. He's been a glitch.
Soler.
He's been a glitch for years. Those two guys.
So yeah, I love assembling that team, and it's always evolving.
That's what I did throughout college. I just watched. I didn't bring my PlayStation. I didn't have cable. I got into YouTube when I was in college, and I got into other stuff. Like I'm looking at. I don't know where I'm looking. I'm looking at you. Okay. I got into your show when I was in college too, and that's what I would just watch people play the show. I love it. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
I
great.
get it. Like I don't consume a ton of content because I'm creating a lot of content.
Yeah.
But I get it, and especially now with GeoGuessr, GeoGuessr has gotten an interesting emotion out of me. That yeah, and Joe's McFly. I mean, I can watch Joe's do anything. So with that, I think we're kind of over an hour. Penik, you're my bro of the night.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate it.
Seems like a layup.
Yeah.
Seems like a layup. Enjoy Justin, Bobby. Who else is coming through? I might be coming through. Danny King might be around.
Yeah, Nikki Snacks
Snacks.
is going to be coming Friday and Saturday, I think. We're going to have the football grump. If he's a Giants guy who's really, really smart with prospects. So we're going to have some people coming around and floating around. So stay tuned. And all 17, 15 hours, however long the draft is, every single second, we're going to be in the live stream lounge over there.
Over there. Watch them. Watch everything else on the JOMBOY Media Network. The Compound. Ian Happ. He plays baseball. Potomac is Zach Short. And they have guests. My episode is one of their most watched. Not a big deal. JJR today. Big draft. Huge draft. Talking Baseball got released a little bit ago. One of the last topics eps before our Silver Daisy Award. Huge. Mansplain baseball. Talking Yanks. Yanks are hot, baby. Everything on the JOMBOY Media Network. King BBD. King Penik. Just not over my
Nation, Farm to Fame's doing stuff.
Always. So much stuff. We're boxing Canobio? Joe's McFly?